Katyn Massacre, a chilling tale of Soviet brutality. The Katyn Massacre, one of the darkest episodes of World War II, stands as a grim testament to human cruelty during a time of unprecedented global conflict. Orchestrated by the Soviet Union in 1940, this mass killing was aimed at eliminating Poland's military and intellectual elite to secure Soviet control over the occupied territories. While the horrors of Nazi atrocities are well documented, the Katyn Massacre shocked even the Nazis, who uncovered evidence of this Soviet war crime in 1943. This event remained shrouded in controversy and denial for decades, epitomizing the cold and calculated repression characteristic of Joseph Stalin's regime. The story of Katyn is not merely one of mass murder, but also of deceit, propaganda, and the long struggle for historical justice. 1. Prelude to Tragedy, Political Context and Soviet Ambitions. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, 1939. On August 23, 1939, Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union signed the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, a non-aggression treaty with a secret protocol dividing Eastern Europe into spheres of influence. Under this agreement, Germany took control of Western Poland, while the Soviet Union claimed the eastern half. The pact also gave the Soviets a free hand in the Baltic states and parts of Finland. This agreement laid the groundwork for the invasion of Poland in September 1939, triggering World War II. Soviet occupation of Eastern Poland. On September 17, 1939, the Soviet Red Army invaded Eastern Poland under the pretext of protecting Belarusian and Ukrainian minorities. Polish forces, already weakened by the German assault, offered limited resistance. The Soviets quickly established control over the region, implementing policies to suppress Polish nationalism and integrate the territory into the USSR. As part of their strategy to neutralize potential opposition, Soviet authorities began rounding up thousands of Polish military officers, intellectuals, clergy, and other community leaders. These individuals were seen as threats to Soviet authority and were promptly detained. 2. The orchestration of mass murder. The decision to kill early 1940, over 25,000 Polish prisoners were held in various NKVD-run camps, including Kozelsk, Starobelsk, and Ostashkov. These individuals represented the backbone of Poland's military and intellectual leadership. On March 5, 1940, the Soviet Politburo, under Stalin's direct orders, approved the execution of these prisoners. The official rationale was that these individuals were enemies of the Soviet state and could not be re-educated or integrated into Soviet society. The executions. The killings began in April 1940 and continued for several weeks. Prisoners were transported in small groups to execution sites, including the Katyn Forest, Kalinin, modern-day Tver, and Kharkiv. They were led into execution chambers or secluded areas where they were shot in the back of the head, an efficient and deliberate method of killing. The bodies were then buried in mass graves, with layers of earth and lime used to conceal the evidence. In total, approximately 22,000 individuals were murdered, including 8,000 military officers, 6,000 police officers, thousands of educators, doctors, lawyers, and priests. Chant 3. Discovery and Denial. The Propaganda Coup, 1943. In April 1943, Nazi forces occupying the Smolensk region uncovered the mass graves in the Katyn Forest. Seeking to exploit the discovery for propaganda purposes, the German government invited international forensic experts and journalists to investigate. Examinations revealed that the victims had been executed in the spring of 1940 during Soviet control of the region. Personal belongings and documents found on the bodies further corroborated the timeline. The Nazis used the Katyn Massacre to drive a wedge between the Allied powers, portraying the Soviet Union as a barbaric and untrustworthy partner. Soviet denial! The Soviet government immediately denied responsibility, blaming the massacre on Nazi forces. Soviet propaganda that the Germans had executed the prisoners in 1941 after invading the Soviet Union. This narrative was supported by fabricated evidence and coerced testimonies. 4. Aftermath and Cold War politics. The Nuremberg trials. The Katyn Massacre was briefly mentioned during the Nuremberg trials, but the issue was not pursued due to political considerations. The Western Allies, particularly the United States and Britain, were reluctant to antagonize the Soviet Union, a key partner in the fight against Nazi Germany. As a result, the massacre remained unresolved, with the Soviets continuing to deflect blame onto the Nazis. Impact on Polish-Soviet relations. For Poland, the massacre was a devastating loss of its military and intellectual elite. The Polish government in exile in London repeatedly sought to highlight Soviet culpability but faced resistance from Allied powers. The incident deepened mistrust between Poland and the Soviet Union, setting the stage for decades of strained relations. Chapter 5. The Struggle for Truth. Emerging Evidence. In the decades following World War II, evidence of Soviet responsibility continued to emerge, despite Soviet efforts to suppress the truth. Polish émigré organizations and independent researchers worked tirelessly to document the massacre. In the 1970s and 1980s, underground publications in Poland began to circulate accounts of the massacre, challenging the official Soviet narrative. The Soviet admission In 1990, under the leadership of Mikhail Gorbachev, the Soviet government finally admitted responsibility for the Katyn massacre. Declassified documents revealed the Politburo's decision to execute the prisoners, along with detailed records of the NKVD's actions. This admission marked a turning point in the historical understanding of the massacre, though it did little to alleviate the pain felt by the victims' families. 6. Legacy and commemoration. Impact on Poland. The Katyn massacre remains a symbol of Polish suffering and resilience. Each year, Poland commemorates the victims on April 13th, designated as Katyn Memorial Day. Monuments and memorials across Poland and the world honor those who perished. Historical lessons. The massacre serves as a reminder of the dangers of totalitarianism and the importance of safeguarding human rights. It underscores the need for accountability in the face of state-sponsored violence. The long struggle for truth highlights the power of historical memory in confronting injustice. Conclusion. The Katyn massacre is not just a chapter in Polish or Soviet history. It is a profound human tragedy with universal significance. It exemplifies the capacity for cruelty that arises when political power is wielded without accountability. While the Soviet Union sought to erase the memory of Katyn, the perseverance of survivors, researchers, and truth seekers ensured that the victims' stories would not be forgotten. Today, Katyn stands as a testament to the enduring struggle for truth and justice in the face of oppression, a somber reminder of the costs of war, and a call to remember and honor those who suffered.